like to think of it almost like she's telling us a fairy tale of her youth, and at the end she's able to, as an adult, connect with us in a very different way. Hi everyone, I'm José Zayas. I'm the director of As You Like It at the American Shakespeare Center.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Jose.
Of course.
I'm really excited to talk to you about this 2026 summer performance of As You Like It. I heard it was one of your first Shakespeare plays.
It was, yes. Yeah, I directed As You Like It when I was 20. It was at Harvard University. I was an undergraduate, and it was my first attempt at it ever. So it was a crazy production, very wild. It was one of those like everything but the kitchen sink approaches to it.
How have you seen it kind of change and evolve through that time?
I mean, obviously, I know how to direct now. So, you know, at that moment it was an experiment. This time I'm like, it's more cohesive. I've distilled a lot of information since then. The first time I did it was a play about love. It was a play about madness and liminality, and I was just about to leave college, so sort of like the journey of Rosalind into Arden felt very personal in many ways, and sort of out of it as a sort of a space for exploration and playfulness. And this time it's a play about aging. I feel that it's a play in which we hopefully really look at the idea of time and how everyone navigates it very differently.
How can we kind of, as an audience, see that theme come across during the show?
I mean, the first image is I use a sundial, so we're already thinking about how time functions in this world. Be able to see it in the movements from one world into another, from dark into light. I use a lot of music, sort of I mean, it's interesting how Shakespeare uses music in this particular text, because it does suspend time. It allows us to spend time in Arden in a very unrushed way. It's a very messy play with a lot of strange plots and a lot of digressions, but those moments where musicality, where the gentleness of the plot and its ironies, I think are a lot more focused for me this time, and I'm hoping that the audience sort of sees how when people go to Arden, it's an attempt to stop time in many ways, or to sort of like confront the idea of what time is. Hence, you know, the most famous speech in the play is the 7 Ages of Man speech. All the world's a stage, and then it goes through like, this is what it's like to age in life. And I'm hoping that people have that experience, and that it almost feels like it's Rosalind's memory play in many ways, and that it's somebody who at the end of the play turns to us with many of the lessons that she's learned. It's almost like I'd like to think of it almost like she's telling us a fairy tale of her youth, and at the end she's able to, as an adult, connect with us in a very different way.
It's very funny,
yeah,
but it's also very poignant at times, speaking of the All the World's a Stage speech. And I was curious how you kind of figured out that line and navigated that kind of duality.
I hope it works. I mean, we have our first audience tonight. You never know with plays like this. I mean, we know it works. As You Like It has been done so often, and it's a beautiful summer play, so people do it all the time. But first part of the play, the first act, takes place in the court, and it's almost a tragedy. So for me, I've taken that first section that involves fights and family dynamics that are very tense, and exiles and banishments, and I've taken that very, very seriously, and hopefully by seeding that very carefully, it makes the trip into Arden sort of a release, and then each scene you just sort of take it for what it is. If you trust Shakespeare, and if you trust that in contrasting tonalities, that's what makes Shakespeare so interesting, then it just sort of takes care of itself in its own weird way. And of course I am dealing with some wonderfully adept clowns who also are able to ground things in great textures and great truth. So I think it's always just sort of really staying focused to that.
The explosion into Arden was so beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about, without giving too much away, how you kind of crafted that?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the great things when doing Shakespeare is you can think about how the scenes move, how language works. Every production is going to have a very different dialogue with the text, every director, every cast. And I was really interested in the idea that the court world happens just in one movement. The play is usually structured, or the way Shakespeare wrote it, there's court scenes, and then there's a scene in Arden, and then you go back to the court. So the first thing that I did is I moved all the scenes in the court so that they rise in action. As the stakes become higher, everything begins to build. I almost treat it like a bit of an action narrative as it progresses into the last 3 scenes in that act. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to sort of build attention to such a moment. Then there's this beautiful explosion of color into Arden. So, you know, the techniques that I used were the court world is all black and white. So it's very stark and very severe and very elegant. And then that way there's a really big contrast going into the forest where everything becomes earth tones and greens and jewels and sort of a kaleidoscope of color.
Well, there are tons of fantastic moments within the show. Is there one that really stands out to you?
I love the ending. We're using a song that's sort of like, you know, we've used music, we've created new original music for the show based on his lyrics, and then we've added a song. And I always like, one of the big things about doing it here is because we don't have traditional sound effects or light. I'm always thinking, how do I end an act? How do I end the show? And I love musical numbers. So, you know, there's a vocabulary that's built here because the actors get to sing and sort of perform songs during the pre-show and intermission. And so I'm always thinking about how to weave new music into it and allowing it to feel like it's part of that world and that vocabulary. So I think the ending where the marriages all happen and all the actors are singing this final song and playing the music simultaneously to the audience and to each other is a bit surprised at how poignant it's felt. Mostly because I think this song that we're using is very much about time, and it's a love song, and it has a delicacy to it that I think is very surprising.
Were there any surprises that came through like the rehearsal process?
Oh, everything's a surprise. I mean, you collaborate. You come in with a strong idea, hopefully, about what you want to do. But I'm someone who, I just do that in order to start the conversation. The missing part at that point is the performers, the collaboration with them. So every day is a bit of a surprise as they teach me what the play can do and what their storytelling is inside that. So things that I think I know about the play are always changed, they're always shifted by that.
What's important about engaging with this show in the Blackfriars Playhouse, this space here in 2026?
As You Like It is one of Shakespeare's greatest comedies. If you've never seen it, then it's a great way to introduce yourself to it with great performance and what I hope is a great clear production that really takes you through it and helps you feel that it's very modern. Even though I'm setting it in a vaguely Edwardian, Victorian setting, which is a little inspired by, mostly by Edward Gorey, I'm hoping that the way we use language feels very contemporary, and I think that's what always happens in the Blackfriars. There's such an immediacy to staging something here and to the relationship between the actors and the audience that it makes the text come alive in a way that I've never experienced in any other theater when watching Shakespeare. Like anybody who comes here for the first time, I think will have a bit of a revelatory experience. So for me, that's the first thing for those who don't know it. For those who know it, I hope they engage in the dialogue we're having around the text in a way that excites them, in a way that makes them think of things that they've already thought about differently, that they hear material in a new way. Never can predict what that's going to be, but I'm always excited by the possibilities of that. By hearing new actors deliver this text, you engage with the material in a different way. And it's, you know, and it's a play about family, and it's a play about gender, and it's a play about how to love and how we are able to love, and Rosalind, of course, being one of Shakespeare's greatest female characters, I think takes us on this really beautiful and complicated journey as she herself is trying to figure out her place in the world. So I think her journey is our journey in many ways.
Well, if you could have the audience take away something from the show, what is something you would have the audience take away?
Oh, I'll tell you, I never think about what to take away because I think everybody's going to be, it's going to have a very different experience, and I hope that the production allows for that. But ultimately, I just want them to be moved. I want them to find something in it that makes them think about their family, about their loves, about how we navigate relationships, and that even hundreds of years after this play is premiered, that it's still something that is truthful and universal, and that we see people struggling to find contentment and yearning for connection, and that is something that touches everybody deeply.